Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for Leader to Leader today with Ted Gardella from the College Board. I see people are starting by introducing themselves in the chat, which is fantastic. So if you would take a second and do that. Welcome, Vern. Good to see you. Hey there, Ryan. Ooh, two people from Lake Orion. Welcome, Gretchen. Oh boy, I think Lake Orion might be winning for most attendees. Welcome, Heather. Good to see you too. My neighbor, Sarah Allen. Welcome, Sarah from Grayling. Hey, Marcia, always good to have you with us. I see board member Shauna Grew. Ryan's friend from the Thumb, Brad Hale, good to have you with us. Former board member Scott Kapla, good to see you as well. We have a lot of people from Roosevelt High School in the house. Welcome, our friends from Wyandotte. Hi, Brandy, Assistant Superintendent from Zeeland. Thanks for being with us. Oh, another board member, Ham Al-Qadre from Fordson. Thanks for being with us. All right, guys, as you are all checking in, we are going to just go ahead and get started. And, you know, whenever we do these Leader to Leader sessions at MASSP, I always just like to kind of give you this disclaimer that we do record these sessions. You know, we will be taking your questions in the Q&A. So as that comes up, just keep in mind that anything that you ask is something that, you know, will be recorded and would be contained in that posting. Our panelists today are Ted Gardella from the College Board, who always does such a great job of answering our questions and keeping MASSP members in the loop. We really appreciate you being with us today, Ted. And, of course, Wendy. And if you haven't met me before, I'm Wendy Zdeb, the Executive Director here at the Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals. And on with us today, we have from the MASSP staff, we have Colin Ripmaster, our Associate Executive Director. We have Steve Seward, Associate Director. We have Bob Kefjan. The beard just kills me, Bob, every time. Our lobbyist, and we also have Ryan Casey, who is our Director of Digital Learning. So thanks so much for the staff for being with us today. Before we get going, just a few things in terms of managing this webinar today. The chat is your spot just for introductions. If you want to connect with somebody else that you see on there, just make sure that you're adjusting who you're speaking to, whether it's all panelists and attendees. That'll give you the opportunity for everybody to see what you're posting. And then you'll also see at the bottom of your screen, if you're just running your cursor down there, the Q&A. And the Q&A is where we're going to actually grab your questions. If it's a question that either myself or somebody on the MASSP team can answer, we'll answer it. And if not, if it's a question for Ted, I will pose those to him as he periodically takes breaks in his presentation. So please use the Q&A and not the chat for posing your questions. So I think we're going to go ahead kind of and get started. I know we were going to have Ted put his kind of take over the screen there. And Ted, as you're doing this, I just kind of thought it would be smart if we kicked off right away because I know a lot of people are joining thinking Ted is going to give me all the answers to how I deal with testing when we are either in a remote or a hybrid environment and how we can test all these kids if we don't have anyone else in the building. So Do you have that answer to share right out of the gate?
Unfortunately, Wendy, I don't have answers on um, remote starts for the SAT suite. We'll talk a little bit today about how to use all of our advanced placement resources, no matter whether you're hybrid or fully online or face-to-face. But as of right now, there are no remote online options for the SAT suite. And the guidance from the original executive order is that the tests are required to be administered, but there is no accountability component for the results. And really, that's all I'm able to say. There's every day there's something that's going on between MDE and the College Board. It ends up in Spotlight every week, so that's still the best place to get information about that.
Well, thanks for getting that out of the way, because I was waiting for those questions to start rolling in and asking you how we're going to manage that. And obviously, there's just not one answer to that question. And I did actually hear from a principal who, although they were fully remote, they were going to bring kids in for testing one grade level at a time. And then what they were also going to do is just after testing, provide a box lunch in the classroom for kids in their testing room. And then they were going to run them through an abbreviated bell schedule because obviously being fully remote, not having an opportunity to, meet teachers, they thought, hey, if we're going to bring the kids anyway, in, we may as well, kind of get a dual benefit out of it. So I know there are a lot of creative solutions out there that don't have to be related to you, Ted, but just things that I think maybe people could be thinking about.
Great, thanks. Well, I do have a couple of different topics today, and I want to leave room for plenty of questions, as we always do. So we'll just go ahead and get started. Really, I think everybody in Michigan understands a lot of this, but there's been some, headline-grabbing occurrences over the last couple of months with respect to test optional and test flexible. So, the SAT suite, it is an aligned suite. It's aligned to what the work that students do in school, and it's internally aligned as well, grades 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12th grade for SAT. Especially with PSAT 8-9, we establish a baseline and then a check-in each year for college readiness. We have free online personalized practice through Khan Academy, and I have a slide on our latest research, which is really, really interesting about Khan Academy. It kind of changes the Khan equation, if you will. There's also opportunity to measure growth from PSAT 8-9 through the SAT. It offers students information about their potential for advanced placement courses. And really importantly, and this is especially important as we're talking about test flexible, test optional schools, the SAT suite still helps through student search. It still helps connect students with colleges, universities, and scholarship organizations. And it's really important to note that while a test score may be optional for admissions, it's still a really critical component of things like course placement and local scholarships at the college or community college level. So still very important in that recruitment process. So this is all information that I think you've seen before, and this has to do with the PSAT and MSQT, which is what Michigan is using for grades 10 and 11. So there are two primary administrations. There's the Wednesday, October 14th, and Thursday, October 29th. But we've also added a January 2021 administration, which will be Tuesday, January 26th. All three of these administrations are being supported for grades 10 and 11 by the Michigan Department of Education. The Saturday option is not supported by MDE. So any of the school day administrations are, and all of these school day administrations will also include national merit eligibility for students. So even if they take the January 2021 test, they still would be eligible if they are 11th graders for a national merit scholarship. We added a lot of flexibility with respect to all of our tests. So that means whether you're doing PSAT 8-9, PSAT and MSQT for grades 10 and 11, the SAT for grade 12. We added 3 new key options. The first of which is offsite testing. Schools can use any offsite location without submitting a plan. So they're just able to distribute the tests and do it in an offsite if that helps them, especially with social distancing. Multiple administration dates. We just talked about 3 admin dates for PSAT and MSQT. Schools can use any of the 3 or all of the 3. So they can split their grades up however they want. They can do a grade at a time, or they can split grades up over those 3 administration dates. And then there's also the ability to stagger start times. So there are flexible start times. You could do multiple groups during a day. The only caveat there is that any testing of a subsequent group must start before the first group ends testing. So you couldn't schedule something for, say, 8 to 11 and then another one from 12 to 3. So whatever that second group is, it has to start before the first group ends their testing. And with PSAT 8-9 for grade 9, you have a very, very large window starting in September and ending in October in order to administer that test. The PSAT 8-9 does include a digital option. It is not a remote digital option. So students would still need to be in a location where they are proctored to do that digital test. And as of today, we have about 40 Michigan schools that have signed up for digital testing. It is a different platform from the one that's used for MSTEPs. So if you are signed up for digital testing, you're going to be getting a lot of emails from our digital group. There are different requirements, and they will help walk you through those requirements for digital testing.
Hey, Ted,
Sure.
when did we jump back to the screen you were just on? Because a couple of questions are somewhat related. I'm wondering, Mark is asking, Mark Thomas from Northview, what are your thoughts or guidance when it comes to virtual students and families who are not comfortable or refuse to come into the building for mandated testing? Will MDE offer a waiver? So I'm imagining Mark's question, really is more toward spring testing than fall, because with fall, as we've stated a couple of times, you are required to offer the test, but there is not a requirement in terms of you don't have to hit a participation rate and you don't have to hit a score. So if a family refused to come for spring testing, you wouldn't have a penalty that was attached to it. But let's say that we get into spring testing and we're still remote. Would MDE offer a waiver for that situation, or has there been any discussion about that yet?
There has not been. We've really been focused on fall testing. And so, as you stated, schools are required to administer the test. There is no accountability requirement for the fall testing. But, I think everyone saw the news bulletin last week of Secretary DeVos saying that there will be no waivers of spring testing. So, again, we're going to continue to work with MDE. I think Spotlight is the best place for answers to those questions. But at this point in time, there hasn't been any conversation about accountability waivers at all. We've been focused on the fall admin.
Okay. Another question is from Matthew Kaminsky. Can we change our orders for a different PSAT date? So if you jumped the gun a little early, sent in your order, and now you're like, ooh, I'd like to change it. Can that be done?
Right now, it is still, you still can modify your order. So one of the great reasons that we did this webinar on September 9th is that you still have time before, and I'll hit those, the dates requirements, but I believe it's September, you have until September 16th to modify or change your order.
Okay, go ahead.
And I do want to point out one thing, and I'll probably say this a couple of different times. There is no penalty for unused tests. So if when we've had people email or call us and say, well, how many tests should I order? Order for your enrollment, because there's no penalty for not using the tests at all. I mean, other than you'll probably have to pack them up and send them back, depending on which test we're talking about. But there's no penalty financially for ordering too many tests. Any other questions right yet, Wendy, or should we go on?
No, I know we've answered this question a couple of times, but is there still a requirement for a percentage of students that need to be tested? I think we just have to keep making this distinction that there isn't that requirement for spring testing, but there is that requirement for fall testing.
No, opposite. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so there's
look,
no accountability requirement for fall testing.
Yeah.
But as of right now, there still is an accountability component for spring testing.
And really, maybe just to refresh people, why are we fall testing this year? We don't traditionally fall test in Michigan. So let's just revisit why that happened in the first place. So I can tell you that, when testing was canceled last spring, MASSP members and the MASSP board, we were all kind of wondering, geez, what about all those kids who aren't going to get their free SAT tests, and students who really value their PSAT test as their pre-SAT and kind of to, start their Khan Academy work and things of that nature. We really wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to still get that test free of charge. And, there was some pushback from the field where we had some people saying, why can't the kids just get a waiver? And I don't know about you. I read a lot of national publications, and I've seen students all over the United States lining up at SAT testing centers in places that are unfamiliar to them, wearing masks, being socially distanced, being turned away because they don't have the space to test the students. And I think sometimes, although I understand it's definitely a challenge to manage testing in general, and under these conditions even more so, but the bottom line is it's a huge equity piece. And the fact that all of the students in Michigan get a free college entrance exam, and they get to take it in their home school where they're comfortable with people that they know, it really is a pretty significant advantage. And so to say, well, why don't we just give the kids a waiver to go test? Who's going to go take the waiver? It's going to be the kids that have cars, have opportunity, their parents will get them there. And once again, it really does, take away a lot of the equity piece that in-school testing provides.
Totally agree, Wendy, and especially as we've looked at test center capacity nationwide for Saturday tests. Let's go ahead and move on a little bit, because this adds to your point. So this year, because of the crisis, we have added additional national admins. So these are all of the fall SAT test dates. We already had August 29. Any of the start dates are for school day testing. So we have a school day administration coming up for September 23rd. That ordering deadline has already passed. We have a national admin September 26th. Actually, Gus Gardella is signed up to take his SAT because he wasn't able to take one last year. October 3rd is another national admin. October 14th is the second school day admin. And October 27th is an available school day administration. Now, October 27th is a little bit different in that it was the makeup date. And so in order to order tests for October 27th, you need to have made an order of at least one test for either September 23rd or October 14th. So you can treat October 27th as your primary SAT 12th grade test date, but in order to do that, you have to have at least placed an order for September 23rd or October 14th. Then you'll get a makeup test email, as you normally would the day of school day testing, and it'll say, how many makeup tests do you need? So you would respond to that email if you want to use October 27th as your primary test date. And then November 7th and December 5th are other national admin dates. So really, and we'll say this a number of times, the best sources of information on fall and spring testing programs both are going to be through MDE Spotlight newsletter or the websites. We work very closely. We have multiple calls per week with MDE. We're always adjusting information. I know that we're working very, very closely on a new guidance document with respect to parental consent and student opt-in, because there has been a small change to that, which I'll talk about. But if you are providing the slide deck, Wendy, then these links are actually live. And I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint just for a second.
Hey, before you do that,
Yep,
you
sure.
might want to jump back to the testing date screen, because we've got
Sure.
a couple of questions about that.
Okay.
So a question about national dates. What does that mean in Michigan? And are those optional dates for us?
They are not for schools. If you expect the department to pay for those tests, you cannot order for those dates. Those are national admins. That's where a student goes into their College Board account, sets up a registration, and tests at a local test center. So capacity for that is limited. So only the September 23rd, October 14th, and October 27th dates are available for the MDE sponsored SAT tests.
So can we talk about this, kids that are currently juniors? So they're juniors right now. What test are they taking this fall?
So this fall, the juniors are taking the PSAT and MSQT. So both grades 10 and 11 will take the PSAT and MSQT in the fall. It's actually a great opportunity, because those 11th graders will then have a score in December that's really, really helping them determine readiness for the SAT in April that they will take. So juniors this year will take PSAT and MSQT in the fall, or January if that's the test date the school chooses. And then they will also take the SAT in April.
Perfect. Okay, so sorry to keep hitting you on these testing dates. So is the test date October 27th or 29th?
October 27th for SAT. So I can go back a couple of slides, because for PSAT and MSQT, so this is for grades 10 and 11, the dates are the 14th, the 29th, and then the 26th. So that's for grades 10 and 11. The SAT for fall is for grade 12. So again, one of the things we did with all of this additional flexibility is we tried to make sure that schools could offer each grade level on a different testing date. And so rather than always having test dates on a Wednesday, we are moving some of them around so that schools have other dates as options.
Great. Sorry, we can go
That's
on.
okay. Sure. All right, I just wanted to, let's see, I'll stop the share, and then I'll restart the share with MDE. So Wendy, if you can give me a thumbs up if that's showing now. Okay,
Yep.
Great. So, as I've said, really it's Spotlight where you're going to get the absolute best information. We work very, very closely and really try and make sure that the best information is there. So here you have this is I think last week's Spotlight. You had the fall 2020 deadlines that were in there. You had an announcement about the winter PSAT and MSQT. You had how to update orders in the test ordering system. And then you had the information about PSAT and MSQT where you can order multiple dates. So lots of information there. Fall testing manuals have been posted. And then there's also a new supplement as well. This is the guidance document currently about using search and parental consent and doing the SAT student data questionnaire. We're going to come back to that in a little bit in the PowerPoint. But really, it's absolutely essential that you just stay connected to MDE. So let me stop there, and then we'll go back to our PowerPoint, and we'll continue on. So I think my PowerPoint's back up again. Okay, I see thumbs up. And we'll hit the slideshow. So these were the fall testing dates. And so as I mentioned, if students were in 8th grade in the spring and they're now in 9th grade, they will take the PSAT 8-9, and schools can choose any date between September 21st and October 29th. They can also choose to deliver the test digitally. But again, it is not the same platform as MSTEP, and there are lots of different requirements for digital PSAT 8-9. We do have, as I said, we have about 40 schools that have already ordered the digital test for grades 9. For grades 10 this fall, so if they were a 9th grader last year, they're a 10th grader now, they're taking PSAT and MSQT in the fall, and you can administer that test on October 14th, October 29th, or January 26th. You can use all 3 dates if you want to split up your 10th grade, or you can do 10th grade on one date, 11th grade on another date, you know, and those students who aren't able to make it, you can test them on January 26th. So grades 10 and 11 will be taking PSAT and MSQT with the same dates. And then grade 12 will be taking the SAT with essay, and those dates are September 23rd and or October 14th and or October 27th. Again, very, very important. If you want to use October 27th, you have to have at least placed an order for one test for either September 23rd or October 14th. Then on that day, you will get an email from the College Board asking you how many makeup tests you need, and that's when you would place your order for October 27th.
Okay, Ted, before
Sure.
you leave that window there, if you originally planned to administer PSAT and MSQT for both 10th and 11th grades on October 14th, but have decided you only want to do 10th graders on the 14th and switch the 11th graders to the 29th, does one simply need to add an administration on the College Board, or does the original order need to be canceled?
I don't think you need to cancel the original order. The only thing is you're going to get a boatload of extra tests. So I would go in and modify your order for October 14th, reduce those, and then put in an order for October 29th. Again, there's no penalty for unused tests, but I don't think you want, you know, a gazillion test booklets just hanging around.
All right, so this one's a little bit of a fine point, but so let's say that, you know, many schools have kids that are virtual and kids who are in person. So if you wanted to test your 10th graders that are in person on a different day than the 10th graders that are virtual, could you do that? Or does just all 10th graders have to be on the same day?
Nope, you can use any of those 3 dates, and you can split up your students however you want. So you could do some 10th graders on October 14th, some more on October 29th, and some more on January 26th. You can split them up however you want.
All right, so our current 10th graders, they were 9th graders last year, and they didn't get to take PSAT 8-9.
Correct.
So she's asking, are they taking that since it's the same test that they took in 8th grade, but they're not?
They're not. So 10th graders are taking PSAT and MSQT, which is the same as PSAT 10. So it's actually 10th graders are actually going to have 2 different forms, but they're going to be taking the same test with 2 different forms fall to spring. So it's going to be actually a huge benefit to preparing them for spring tests, because they're actually taking the same test but a different form that they will be taking in the spring. Those 9th graders should have had a PSAT 8-9 score as 8th graders, I believe. Last year's 9th graders, I believe, were among the first to take PSAT 8. So I think they did have a test score for PSAT 8-9. It's just when they were 8th graders, skipped the test when they were 9th graders, and now they're taking PSAT and MSQT as 10th graders.
All right, so usually there's a time that all tests need to start by, for example, 9 a.m. Is this still the case, or can the test be administered in 2 sessions on the same day?
That's part of that new flexibility that we added. You can have multiple test administrations on the same day. You just have to start the second administration before the first one has ended. So you can't do one group of students and get them all the way through finished and then do another group of students after that. If you're going to do multiple administrations on a certain day, then you can start one at 8:30, you can start one at 9:30. It just has to be the second session starts before the first session ends.
I don't really understand. Michelle posted a question. I'm not sure I understand it, but maybe if I ask you, you'll get it. If they're taking same test, is national merit possible in both fall and spring?
Great, that's a great question. So the PSAT and MSQT is normally delivered only in the fall, and that's the only test that qualifies for an NMSQT. We added the January date. So that is still a PSAT and MSQT. However, when we get to the spring and we're providing PSAT 10, even though it's the same test, a different form of that test, it does not qualify for national merit. So, and only 11th grade students can qualify for the national merit. So even a 10th grader who takes PSAT and MSQT in the fall, they cannot qualify for the national merit because they're not 11th graders. So to qualify for national merit, you must be an 11th grader and you must take a PSAT and MSQT on either October 14th, 29th, or January 26th.
Good.
All right, great questions, as always. So I think we've talked about this quite a bit. We added that January 26th. It will be supported by MDE. However, you cannot order for the January test yet. That will become available in October. We're working on the test ordering system. Obviously, you know, as we make all these changes, we have to adapt all these systems. So you can plan for it, but you just can't order in the test ordering system until it becomes live. And as always, Wendy will keep you in the loop. And as soon as that opens up in test ordering, we'll let you and all of your members know. So this is a really important new point. You know, normally we talk about pre-administration sessions and everybody pretty much understands what we're talking about. They usually, if they're in school, they bring kids in for a separate session so they can get all the bubbling done. So that on test day, they're just going to do the tests. It's always optional. It is highly recommended. And when you do that pre-admin, you have to bubble in required information. Normally, in spring, we're dealing with student labels. And so there's a lot less that has to be bubbled in. There will be no labels for fall testing. So you're going to have to bubble in all the required information for scoring. Now, what we're trying to do, and this is part of the new guidance that will come out, is we're trying to identify the minimum requirement for bubbling in. What are the fields that must be bubbled in when students are in there taking the test? And we're going to provide that information. However, there are some really important things that happen during a pre-admin normally. Students can decide whether they want to opt into student search, and then they can complete the optional questionnaire. That's for SAT and PSAT and MSQT. That takes a lot of time though, and I'm sure people are thinking, gosh, if we're bringing kids in for this one day of testing, we don't want to have to throw in all the pre-admin stuff as well, but we don't want to bring them in for an additional day just to do the pre-admin. So opting into student search and the optional questionnaire are now going to be available online. So students do not have to do them during the day of the test. Again, we will let you know what are the actual minimum required fields. I believe it's going to be like the first 8 fields are required. But then that whole student data questionnaire, you can give your students a website and direct them to go and do that online. Now that's going to impact parental consent. So if you haven't already gotten parental consent, you need to have parental consent if students are in school completing search and the questionnaire. Let me say that again. If students are in school on test day and you're going to provide them the opportunity to opt into student search and complete the data questionnaire, you must have parental consent. And that guidance has already been issued along with a form to get that consent. If you do that this fall, you won't need to redo it in the spring. So if you get consent in the fall for fall testing, that will go all the way through the school year. But students can do this online. So you might, as part of your planning, decide, well, we're going to give all of our students the websites, and we're going to have them, if they want to opt into search and they want to do the student questionnaire, they can do that online. Great. Here's one really critical piece though. For this fall's 12th graders, these are the 11th graders who weren't able to take the SAT last spring. They will not be able to do their free score sends unless they do them on the answer sheet. So the day of the test, the day of the SAT, students are going to need to identify where they want to send their 4 free score sends. They won't be able to do it electronically. because there is no student registration number at this point in time. So what we would recommend is, as part of your planning and as part of your communication, tell your seniors that they must have their 4 score sends in mind. So they must know, am I sending it to Michigan State? Am I sending it to University of Michigan, Central Michigan, Saginaw Valley State? They have to know where they're going to send their scores. They don't have to know the code, because they will get a direction sheet on the day of the test, and it will have all of the college codes or scholarship organization codes. So they'll be able to quickly look up the 4-digit code they need. But they have to know where they're sending their score, because they can't take the time to go, well, I don't know where I want to send it. Maybe I'll send it to Harvard. Might want to send it to, the University of Hawaii. That's where I would send my scores. So they have to know that. It's really critical. Everything's now, so again, the student search service and the questionnaire are all now available online. That is a first. That's brand new. We're going to make some new guidance documents that will be coming in Spotlight soon. And we have a brochure for parents on the online option. We'll be providing that as well. This is, I'm going to hit this a number of times. They have to identify in the fall, they have to identify where they want to send their score sends on their answer sheet. It's a bubble in section. Where do you want to send your scores? There's 4-digit codes, and those are in the directions sheet. So they won't be able to send them in their College Board online accounts. They have to do it on test day. Really important for the fall. It'll be different in the spring. They'll have the ability to do that online in the spring, because they do get a registration number as a part of the process. But because we're doing test ordering the way we are, we're not able to do that online score sends. So make sure your students who are seniors know where they want to send their scores. And then on test day, make sure you have an additional 10 minutes for them to look up their score codes and fill in that section. It is really important, especially when you think about equity, Wendy, as you said. This is where, colleges and universities use those scores for scholarships, for course placement, many other things besides admissions. Just thought I would put in here, I'm not going to go over it very much, but this is the spring 2021 testing schedule that's currently, under consideration. So we have accommodated testing windows that are listed. We have makeups listed. That's all available on MDE's website. So again, just make sure that you know when the spring 2021 testing is. We will do the same thing we always do for spring. You will not be ordering tests for spring. You'll go in and pre-ID students. You'll make sure all the accommodations are in. And then all of that ordering work is going to be done behind the scenes. We will have, basically the same things we always have for spring. So after fall testing is done, we'll send out information on school establishment, on any accommodation deadlines for spring testing, and we should have a brand new SSD system launching that will make things much, much easier for spring testing. You'll still do the pre-ID process the way you always have, and we'll issue those deadlines. We'll give all that information out after we're done with fall testing. So make sure you're still continuing to watch the Spotlight newsletter. I'm going to try and quickly go through, search just in terms of value. This is really an important point for students to be thinking about, especially those first generation students whose parents really haven't, gone to college and don't know about all of these different opportunities. Student search is effective, it's voluntary, and it's completely secure. Both of my kids were connected to search, and it made all the difference in the world in terms of opening up their eyes to possibilities. We connect students with information about colleges and scholarship opportunities. And recent research that we just published shows that students that participate in search are 12% more likely than their peers to enroll at a four-year college. Definitely a big payoff to this.
Hey,
this
Ted,
is what's going to happen. Yep, sure. Stop for questions.
Before you leave the student search part, to be sure I understand, if we direct our students to complete the questionnaire and student search online, we do not need to obtain parent consent.
That's correct. If they are doing it online and it is not connected with the test date, then by going online, they're providing that consent.
Thank you.
Yep. So this is what the new search window looks like. The online opt-in. This is the website that students would go to. They'd go to studentsearch.collegeboard.org. They can opt in and they can opt out right at this website. So if they feel like, oh, I'm getting too many, letters from colleges saying, they really want me to apply, they can go in and opt out. And then as a part of that, you'll be able to see the student profile. This is the student data questionnaire. So all of that information that they used to have to bubble in about their previous high school coursework and, GPA and all that information that used to take about 45 minutes or so, that can all be done online. And that information is really important for personalized scholarship offers and communications from colleges. So if you're going to do the online version, please make sure that students know that you provide plenty of reminders about updating their profile and making sure that they're opting into student search. Again, additional guidance, we're modifying the guidance document right now, and that should come out after this week's spotlight.
So this getting a little in the weeds on this, but if we're directing students to do the online, do you get a list so you know who's completed it?
No, because it's done within their College Board account. I do need to back up just 1 minute. So as long as they're doing the online version outside of school, you do not need to get consent. But if you bring them into school and you put them in a computer lab and you're having them do the online version under your guidance, then you would need parental consent. So if you direct them to go to the website on their own, you don't need to have parental consent. Again, this is going to be in the guidance document as well.
Okay, thanks.
I think I've covered all of this. Yes. So there's a current guidance document that links right here. I believe after tomorrow's spotlight, we will have updated the guidance document, and the latest guidance document will say that it was updated in September of 2020. So if you have an older guidance document and it doesn't say updated September 2020, that's not going to have the information about, the online option for students. All right. I just want to touch on this, Wendy, and this is something that we talk about, quite a bit. The fall tests are released forms. So for PSAT 8-9 and PSAT NMS QT, those tests will be released forms. And that means that the question analysis report that everyone loves so much will be the one that they will have for fall testing. The SAT, the 12th grade test, is not a release form, so you won't have the QAR for 12th grade. But if you test 9th graders, 10th graders, and 11th graders, the data that you get back in December in your educator portal is going to have the question analysis report that you like with all of the percentages of students that have chosen each of the different answers. Remember that the QAR is very different from what we began talking about last spring, which was the SAT question bank. So we're also, this is already live, but we also have the new SAT Suite question bank. So I know as we've talked with some folks, they've looked at, well, if we get this data early, then not only can we use Khan, because their scores will be shared with Khan, we'll know the data from the QAR, and we'll have the SAT Suite question bank to create targeted, really customized practice sets for students for the spring assessments. So they'll still be able to have all of that, but the real additional benefit of the fall testing is that PSAT 8-9 and PSAT NMS QT are released forms, and they'll have the QAR, the question analysis report, that they've come to utilize so well in Michigan.
And I really think that that's a huge, another kind of really positive side benefit to having this free fall test or fall testing opportunity, because for many schools who haven't done that in the past and haven't really accessed those reports and maximized them, this is really an opportunity to do that.
Well, especially for 11th grade, when you think about, if you test your 11th graders, you know, the PSAT and MSQT is the test that comes right before the SAT. So that benchmark score really indicates whether or not they're going to be at the benchmark score on the SAT. And then if those students are keyed into Khan Academy, that's when the practice is really, really customized and most impactful. And then they'll have the SAT Suite question bank as well. So in terms of prepping for spring accountability, it's really an unprecedented opportunity for schools.
It is.
So this is just a quick comparison. You get performance data by question, you get the answer choices, the answer explanations, and you get the percentage of your students that chose each individual answer. That's in the question analysis report. In the SAT question bank, you can search for questions by assessment, by test and subscore, cross-test score. There's also information on the passage text complexity level. I always have to stop before I say that phrase. But lots of questions available for you to create customized practice for students, and they have Khan Academy.
So Ted, before we leave that topic, this year there's going to be a new requirement that schools administer a benchmark test, but that, ends at 8th grade. And so some people were wondering, is there, one of the 4 approved vendors by MDE, do any of those have documented alignment to the College Board assessments?
Wow, that's a great question. And I don't know. I think, and this is just Ted Gardella, this is not College Board. I think out of all the ones that were identified, the organization that's done the most to try and align, I think, is NWEA. I think they've done more than any other to try and align to the PSAT 8-9. Hopefully there will be more additional information on benchmark assessments coming. But I think out of the 4 vendors, at least from my own, personal observation, I think that NWEA has probably done the most. And I don't know whether they're issuing it nationally this year, but last year, Wendy, you'll remember that you and I talked about the fact that NWEA was going into a pilot with Khan Academy to develop practice resources for NWEA at each grade level. I don't know if they're releasing that nationally. Certainly something that folks could ask their NWEA contacts.
We just had another question, kind of benchmark related, pop up. So Stacy is asking or saying that MDE told her that if if her district were to administer PSAT 8 in the fall and again in the spring, that it could count as a benchmark assessment. If the state does not provide it in the spring, then we have to pay for it.
Well, 8th grade is provided in the spring as part of it. So we do grades 8 through 11 in the spring. In the fall, currently, we're doing grades 9 through 12. So at this point in time, without any additional information, yes, if you order PSAT 8-9 for grade 8, that would be at district expense.
Okay. So she's saying if it gets waived in the spring.
If it gets waived in the spring, then
we're not, then they would have to pay for it, but we're not anticipating that happening.
Well, it certainly didn't look like it from the news last week. All right, let's go on. This is brand new information. We just did a really much larger study with official SAT practice. And what we discovered is that there are certain behaviors that students can do that actually make the most of their practice time on official SAT practice. So those who study for at least 6 hours on OSP and follow at least one best practice score on average nearly 40 points higher on SAT. Now, I know you're probably thinking back to when we had, 20 hours and all of that. If you have no official SAT practice and you just take the PSAT and then take the SAT, there's generally a 50 to 60 point score increase just from taking the PSAT and MSQT before you take the SAT. Our previous research was, I want to say, a little bit muddier than this. This is much more specific. This is, 39 points increase on average with at least 6 hours in one best practice behavior, and you see them up here, then we see an actual 39-point score increase beyond the 60 points that you would just get from PSAT and MSQT. What are the best practice behaviors? We have said this over and over again. If you're just going to go on and spend 6 hours in one sitting on Khan Academy, that is not a best practice. You need to follow the personalized skill recommendations, and that happens when you alternate appropriate times of practice. So 20 minutes, every day. The system will move you between the different skill recommendations that you need, so it will help you practice on what you need to. That's a best practice recommendation. Taking at least one full-length practice test. So making sure that you're doing it, if you're doing it online, that you have the time and the atmosphere that you would normally have in a full face-to-face practice test. And then really making sure that as you use Khan, you're watching your we call it the we call it the little leveling up diagram there. It's like the old Trivial Pursuit wedges. So watching your wedge diagram and making sure that you're leveling up skills, really important. I'm not going to stop, Wendy, because I'm looking at time. I want to at least make sure we get through some really important things about advanced placement. We'll stop at the end for questions. Just wanted to give a little bit of a sense of what happened last year. This is the May 11th through 22nd. This is where we did the online remote testing for SAT. We launched an entirely new system of testing in about 2 months. And in addition to that, we ended up also offering a brand new instructional resource called AP Live last year. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that changed this year. But really, really successful administration. And we even offered a final August re-admin for students who started but did not complete the exam. So trying to make sure that we picked up as many students as possible. This is about this coming year. We've really learned a lot about what we offered last year. We offered videos through YouTube last year. They were about an hour long. We learned that A, students don't like 1 hour videos, and B, districts don't like YouTube. They really like to restrict access to that. So taking what we learned from AP Live, and all those videos are still out on YouTube right now. The ones that we did last year, 1 hour videos. I know I made Gus Gardella watch the AP Psych video every single day, and he got a 5 on his AP Psych test this past spring. But what we learned is we've got to make them much shorter. So we're going to launch, actually have launched, we started September 1st, we're launching AP Daily Videos. These are short 10 to 12 minute videos from master teachers across the United States. And they are going to be aligned to the daily topic questions. So really great resource, but it will be delivered through AP Classroom. So students need to, schools need to set up their AP Classroom, AP registration and ordering, give students their join codes, have students join their AP class, and then they'll have access to all of the resources like the daily practice topic questions, the daily videos, the formative personal progress checks, and they'll be able to use their dashboard to get feedback. So we really have a comprehensive system, and what we've done is we've put together guides for how to utilize all the resources, whether you're in person, hybrid, blended, or totally online. And by the way, all of our teacher PD and our coordinator PD, and we just had an administrator PD session delivered online through AP. The really great thing here is the ability to give and get feedback. So, teachers can assign instruction through the daily videos, and they can assign practice. Then the system will help them give feedback. So there's that two-way interaction between teachers and students. We've created, kind of a guide for how to use any of these resources, whether you're in person, hybrid, blended, or online. That unit guide, last year we mailed out hard copies of the course and exam description binder to every AP teacher in the nation. This year they're available online, but really powerful scope and sequence, course at a glance pages, really important instructional resources, just a kind of like the Bible for your AP teachers. The AP Daily videos will be accessed again through AP Classroom, and in AP Classroom, teachers will actually be able to assign the daily videos and monitor whether students are watching the videos and completing topic questions. And they'll be able to provide reports to their principals. It says, hey, you know what, here's my, I assigned these 3 daily videos, 99% of my class watched them, here's my report, I assigned the topic questions, 99% of my kids completed them, here's that report. So we launched Unit 1 videos on September 1st. We actually put the very first video for every course onto YouTube just as a teaser, but it's also got a link for how you get to those videos in AP Classroom. And hopefully I'll have time to just quickly show you what that looks like. These are the important dates, and this is the important piece of information. We call it no risk registration. Last year when we started the brand new system, students had to commit to take the test by November 15th. This year, what we're saying is that we are going to waive any canceled or unused exam fee. So there's no risk for a student to say, sign me up, I'm going to take the test. They can change their mind anytime during the year. There will be no fee for unused or canceled exams. That really makes the whole system, actually, we've had a number of schools that have called and said, well, wait a minute, these are great resources. Could I use them with my honors kids? Sure, you can make them into a section, utilize the resources, and then you could even mark them all as taking the test, because whenever they decide about how they want to take the test, maybe they're in an honors class and they do so well that they go, I think I do want to take that test. They'd have that opportunity. So no risk registration this year. I'm going to skip through that. I just want to quickly, if I can do this really quickly. Let me go to, I hope it's here. Let's see. Yes. So I'm going to AP. Hopefully you're seeing the AP Learning and Development session. If you click on AP Classroom and AP Daily, this is at AP Central. So if you're just going to AP Central and you're going here, here's AP Daily. It's now available. And this is what I really loved. They've already posted all of the instructors for these courses. So Unit 1 is available now. They're available through AP Classroom. But I'll just, let me grab a quick one here. Where's my AP Stats? Here we go. AP Stats. I know this because he was part of our AP Live last year. But Luke Wilcox from East Kentwood High School is one of the AP Daily instructors, former Teacher of the Year here in Michigan. A couple of other Michigan teachers are available. I know there's a macroeconomics teacher who's doing AP Daily, but we are seeing some representation. But we're going to have a daily video for 32 out of the 38 AP classes available through AP Classroom resources. Really important to get that system set up and get your students the join code. Let me stop this, go back to the PowerPoint. So just wanted to mention this, and I know that I've sent this over to MASSP leadership. There is a brand new communication kit for districts. It has all kinds of resources that you can use, whether social media, emails, flyers. You can copy and paste, you can personalize, ready-made communications about the AP updates and supports. So everything you might need for your members to use as they're communicating about their AP program to their schools. And I know we're close on time, so I'm going to stop here, Wendy, and see if there are questions.
Sorry about that. A couple that are fairly simple ordering type questions. Do you have an option to print labels from the MDE secured site?
No, we are not using pre-ID for the fall test, so you cannot print labels. There will be no labels for fall testing.
Okay, for ordering materials, does the testing coordinator need to include the accommodated test material order, or will materials generate from the SSD dashboard?
Great question. You need to order your accommodated materials this year for the fall, not for the spring, but for the fall, you must order your accommodated materials. Students do have to have an approved SSD accommodation in order to do that, except for grade 9. Grade 9, PSAT 8-9 in the fall, it's completely at the school's discretion how to provide accommodations. So that's the only one that you don't have to have in the system. You still have to order the accommodated versions though, and that's done through the test ordering system.
All right, last one. So for early college kids who have a 5th year of eligibility, when is their NMSQT year? 11 or 12 if they have a 13th year?
If they are going to qualify for the scholarship, they must take it as an 11th grader. That's the national merits rules, not necessarily college boards, but the only students who are eligible for a national merit scholarship are 11th graders.
Well, Ted, guess what?
What?
You are on the button.
Woohoo! There's a
To
contact information, Wendy. As always, you know, your members can reach out and we will do our best to answer questions for them.
well, we appreciate it. And as people are logging off today, just want to remind everyone that we do have another Leader to Leader session scheduled for tomorrow. The MHSAA is going to join us. We have Mark Ewell, the executive director from MHSAA, who's going to be answering questions about the fall return to sports plan. And our very own Bob Kefton is going to be going through the executive order 2020-176 as it pertains to athletics and gym openings and things of that nature. So those things are on the docket for tomorrow at 3 p.m. If you did not register for that yet, that is on the event page. And you probably also want to make sure that you get that information to your athletic director, maybe even your superintendent, because they certainly will be taking calls about these concerns, whether they like it or not, probably. So thanks again, Ted, for being with us today. This recording will be available sometime next week. We will tweet it, we will post it on our website, and it will be in headlines. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate your time. Have a great
Thanks very much, Wendy. We really appreciate it.